My parents were victimized yet a second time by the DA's office by repeatedly being demeaned, belittled, ridiculed, and dismissed by the Deputy District Attorney whose actions were defended and condoned by Ann Kelly.
I'm not inclined to accept the plea. I'm not going to be bound by an offer that was not properly vetted through the victim's right.
It was a warm July night in 2024 in the small, quiet town of Monte Vista, Colorado. 81-year-old Bill Metz and his wife Peggy were sleeping peacefully in their home, the same home Bill had lived in since 1987. The window was open. The night was still. And then without any warning, a cloud of bear spray came blasting through that open bedroom window, Bill's face, his head, his clothes, completely soaked. But here's what made it even more devastating. Bill had just had a surgical procedure done on the side of his face just days before. The pain was unbearable. His wife Peggy, who already suffers from moderate dementia, was so traumatized that night she has never fully recovered. When Monte Vista Fire Chief Pat Sullivan arrived on scene, he took one single step through the front door and immediately knew something was wrong. His crew searched the property and found the attacker, Donnie Harmeyer, hiding in the bushes outside. His backpack told the whole story. Bear spray, a pry bar, a hammer, a screwdriver. This was not random. This was planned. And just a few feet away, a second man was found hiding in those same bushes with a loaded gun, a bullet already in the chamber. This was a calculated, premeditated attack on a sleeping elderly couple in their own home. But here is where this story takes an even darker turn, because the crime itself was only half of what this family suffered. The other half happened inside a courtroom over the next 11 months at the hands of the very people who were supposed to protect them.
All right. We are here for sentencing. There is a plea of guilty to count one, a charge of third-degree assault of an at-risk adult, a Class 6 felony. There has been a completed pre-sentence investigation report submitted to the court, as well as an indication of acceptance at community corrections has been filed with the court. Does anybody wish to make statements?
Yes, they do want to make some statements.
I will allow those to happen first, so if you want to have a seat with your client, we'll say those. Whoever you'd like to present.
I'm going to start with Bill.
I'm Bill Metz, Kenneth William Metz. I just have some comments that I would like to make that's bothered me over the last 9 months. Very frustrated. First part, I can't figure out why we were targeted, or I was targeted with pepper spray. I've lived in that same house since '87, so that's coming up to 40 years. I think my frustration has been with the DA office. The only time that I ever had any communication with them was probably a month after the incident happened in July, at which time I met with them, explained what happened. They told me at that time that they didn't know how they were going to handle this case because it was of the bear spray, made it difficult. Several months after that, I had made numerous calls, emails, phone calls to the DA seeking a face-to-face meeting with him to find out what was going on. The only response I got back from them was, "We're too busy to talk. We can do a phone conference." Well, in my opinion, if you can do a phone conference with me, you can do a face-to-face call with me. It won't take any more time, but they wouldn't have anything to do that. I confronted the DA's representative here. I was very frustrated, and my whole thing was a lack of communication with me. I had no idea what was going on. And it was not, I think you had to step outside. Well, lo and behold, I get a phone call from the DA. She wants to talk to me. So I did go down there, and I was reprimanded for getting in the DA's assistant's face, and I apologized, but I told her why. There's no communication. You guys don't do a damn thing here to let me know what's going on. She and said, "Well, we can correct that a little bit. We will send you a monthly email letting you know what's happening." I'm still waiting on the first email. Haven't heard a word. Another thing that bothers me, when the incident happened, Pat Sullivan, chief of the fire department in Monte, was the first one there. He got there, he went into the front door, he took one step in and turned right around, came back and says, "You got a chemical spray." And so my face was wet, my head was wet, my clothes were wet, because it happened right above, probably 2 foot above my head in the bedroom. And so his crew of guys were the ones that found Mr. Armill hiding in the bushes. And they asked me, who'd you make mad today? And I said, oh, I don't know. I haven't made anybody mad. They said, well, we have a guy hiding in the bushes over here. And so they took me over there, and it was Mr. Armeer. He had a backpack that contained a bear spray, pry bar, hammer, screwdriver, and everything like that. And in the meantime, the deputies and stuff found another gentleman hiding in the bushes. He had a loaded gun, bullet in the chamber. So nothing ever happened out of that case. There was a lot of things that were dropped by the DA that could have pursued that one, but that's bygone. Probably the other thing that really upset me, we had a court hearing here in February. We showed up, 11:30 comes, nobody here except the defense. So I went up and asked the clerk, I says, what's going on? Where's the DA? She didn't call you to tell you about there's no meeting? I said, oh no, she didn't call me. So that frustrated me. So, I don't know. It's just been a total disaster. They never did call Pat Sullivan or any of his people up to ask questions, to investigate. No, nobody's ever contacted him. Yeah, I got a bunch of stuff here, but basically, that's my frustration. I wasn't represented. I never knew of any of the plea bargain. What was going on? They did it on their own without consulting me. Frustrated, and I have nothing good to say about them. I wasn't represented well. I think things could have been a lot different. Since Mr. Martinez has come on in the last 2 or 3 months, I've heard more information from him than I ever heard out of the other 3. So with that, I would ask, to me, the only way is to sentence this man to the max, no parole. I even went to the DA and said, I will forego any restitution, because I know I will never see that money. And I said, I'll forego that restitution for 90 more days in jail. She said, can't do that. End of discussion. So with that, Your Honor, I hope that you can sentence this guy for all we can get from him. That's what I have. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Metz.
My name's Kenneth Gregory Metz. I'm Bill's son. We were coming home from Monte Vista from lunch. Mr. Harmeyer's vehicle was in one of our fields in the corner part. We stopped because there was an individual walking through the corner. We stopped to ask what was going on, if they needed help. We have car trouble. Our engine's overheating. No, that wasn't the problem. I asked them if they needed to get off private property. They needed to leave. Watched them go pick up that individual. We went to my parents' house to turn around, make sure they left. I think this was a rhetorical case that they could have been coming after us personally instead of they went after my parents. So I hope you take that into consideration too a little bit. My parents have been living through hell for the last 11 months. That's pretty much all I got for you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would first like to speak on behalf of my mother, Peggy Metz. This crime has affected my mother beyond words. It has caused her to become extremely anxious and paranoid. She suffers from moderate dementia, and this crime has devastated her and turned her already confusing and frustrating world even more upside down. She constantly obsesses about being harmed. She is sometimes so fearful about leaving her home and is paranoid upon returning whom may be in their home waiting to ambush them. This still continues nearly a year after this violating crime. These thoughts and fears are now what fill each day for her. Her increased anxiety has resulted in her doctor having to increase medication in an attempt to help her cope. The process of attending a multitude of hearings over the last 11 months in the hopes of getting some sort of justice has taken a huge toll on both of my parents, but especially my mother. This crime has also greatly affected my father. At 81, he still works full-time plus on my family's potato and grain farming operation. This crime has caused him to be fearful for my mother's mental state. He too has paranoia about the security of their home. They installed a security system as a result of the actions of Donnie Harmeyer and his accomplice, and he now keeps a loaded weapon within reach. This is not how they were accustomed to living prior to this incident. There were also physical injuries. Donnie, the bear spray that you sprayed through my parents' bedroom window saturated my dad's head and face. And as if that wasn't terrible enough, he had just had a surgical procedure done on the side of his face, and you caused him excruciating pain and agony. My mother sleeps with oxygen, and the bear spray caused her to suffer from nose, eye, lung, and throat irritation for many days following your choice to do this. They were unable to stay in their home for several days because you ruined their furniture, bedding, carpet, walls and ceiling, and many of their belongings. Donnie, my family and I know what your intentions were that night, and they were far more sinister and devastating than just spraying bear spray through an open window. We know the plot to break in and steal from my parents was planned far in advance, and there were many people other than just you and Josh Rowe involved. We all have been traumatized by having my 80-year-old parents viciously attacked while they slept peacefully in their bed under an open window on a warm July night. Preparedness and communication from the DA's office allowed the other individual accompanying Donnie in the heinous acts of that July night to walk away with very little consequence. I would like to thank Mr. Martinez for agreeing 2 months ago to take on the responsibility as my parents' prosecutor. You've done the best you could with the botched mess you inherited. You've done a great job communicating with my parents and gathering facts as quickly as you could. You've thoroughly explained things to my parents, answering all their questions, and showing overall compassion and empathy to them. Up until 2 months ago, when Mr. Martinez took this case, my parents were victimized yet a second time by the DA's office by repeatedly being demeaned, belittled, ridiculed, and dismissed, specifically by the Deputy District Attorney whose actions and ruthless behavior were defended and condoned by Ann Kelly. My dad failed to mention the conversations that took place other than he explained that he had had some. The DDA was awful to my dad. A multitude of my father's phone calls and emails to the victim's advocate were ignored, despite the fact that members of the Monte Vista Fire Department and Rio Grande Sheriff's Office did a superior job that night. The report that was filed by the Rio Grande Sheriff's Office was very detailed and complete. The DA's office failed to follow up with investigators who were there that night or look further into other leads that they were provided with. The DA's office also failed to communicate critical details about change in prosecutors, resulting in my parents being left without any representation at a hearing. However, most importantly, the DA's office dropped the biggest ball when they did not consult with my parents regarding the plea bargain that is being offered to Donnie Harmeyer today. My parents were told what the plea agreement would be and that it could not be changed when my parents expressed extreme dissatisfaction. This plea agreement offered today is not what my parents had hoped for in an attempt to seek some sort of justice for how they have and continue to suffer. While I understand the plea agreement offered today to Donnie Harmeyer is 90 days in county jail, I would ask you, Judge, please consider the magnitude of anguish, fear, frustration, and hell my parents are still enduring daily, and what they still have to remember and suffer with in each future day as a result of the crime they are the victims of, as well as the hardships that they were dealt from the district attorney's office. I understand this felony count that Donnie is charged with has a maximum allowable sentence of 18 months in the Department of Corrections. I feel 90 days in county jail is not acceptable, nor is it even a drop in the bucket compared to the 11 months and still counting of hell my parents have been forced to live. Your Honor, Donnie Harmeyer has proven himself to be a repeat offender. I am asking you to make an example and send a message by sentencing him for his actions to the full 18 months in the Department of Corrections with no opportunity to bond out and no credit for any time previously served in this case. This ruling would certainly provide my parents with a little bit of justice and resolution, as well as begin to restore my faith in the judicial process. I thank you deeply for listening and for your consideration.
Thank you. Got a victim telling me that they weren't consulted regarding the plea. In this case, you've made a plea agreement, or the DA's office has made a plea agreement in this case to stipulating to probation with a jail sentence. Why should I accept that if the victim was not consulted in this manner?
Your Honor, I wouldn't necessarily personally ask the court to accept that. On the case where the deadline for trial was within the 35-day. In our notes, we had a district attorney would extend plea offers without consulting victims. And I think that's what happened in this case. The offer was already extended. We confirmed that offer later because we were already within the trial deadline for Rule 16.
Mr. Wyman, I guess I'll give you the same opportunity. Why should I accept this plea if the victim, I've been told it's a clear violation of the Victims' Rights Act. As such, I don't think it's appropriate for me to accept it.
But I can't speak to what was going on at the district attorney's office. I don't know whether it doesn't sound like obviously they were not complying with the Victims' Rights Act. I am asking that the court accept the plea agreement at this time and move forward with sentencing given the status of the case.
The inquiry I made of the district attorney was, why should I accept this plea offer? The plea offer is to the Class 6 felony with a recommendation of jail and a stipulation of probation. What that means is if I accept that, I'm bound by that agreement. That means I have to impose the sentence the district attorney has recommended to the court. I can't impose anything else where the defendant can withdraw his plea. So my question to the DA is, why should I accept the offer if they did not comply with the Victims' Rights Act, which is I've been told?
From my understanding, our office told him what the plea was. What they were upset about was that they weren't consulted and their opinion wasn't heard. So it technically would be compliant with the VRA,
But not the spirit of the law.
spirit.
I'm not inclined to accept the plea. I will allow the defendant to withdraw his plea if he so chooses to, but I'm not going to be bound by an offer that was not properly vetted through the Victims' Rights Act, Mr. Wyman. So if you want an opportunity to speak with your client about that, I'll give you that opportunity. But my finding at this point is that the district attorney did not properly comply with the Victims' Rights Act in making this offer, and as such, I cannot accept it.
On board completely at this point.
If your client wishes to go forward without the district attorney's stipulation to probation, I guess that's fine, but I'm not going to be bound by a stipulation to probation.
I'd like a moment to speak with Mr. Harmeyer about that, just so he understands where we are. And, so if we could take.
Certainly, I can take some other matters up in the meantime.
Thank you, Judge.
All right, we can go back. Mr. Wyman, you ready on Mr. Jaramillo? Recall Mr. Jaramillo, 25 CR 540, you had a chance to speak with him, and Mr. Martinez, you had a chance to speak with the victims?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Wyman, what are you wanting to do today?
Judge, I'm asking to continue this sentencing hearing before Mr. Harmeyer decides whether he wants to withdraw that plea. I mean, there are implications here, there are implications in Saguache County as well, based on a global plea agreement. You know, Judge, I mean, my position when it comes to VRA is that the Victims' Rights Act requires consultation with the victim.
Certainly, I don't disagree with that analysis at all. But what I was told by the victim, there was no consultation. So, I mean, there's where the hitch lies. And if I have a victim telling me that they weren't consulted about a plea, they were just told this was going to happen, I think that's not in compliance with the act from my perspective. So, Mr. Martinez?
No objection to that.
So I'm going to let him continue that. We'll continue the sentencing so that everybody has an opportunity to think about things. Ms. Kelly did send something to me. I haven't had a chance to review it, but I'll make sure it's uploaded as part of the court record. All right, so we'll come back here August 5th at 3:30 for sentencing, giving everybody a chance to kind of figure out where they want to go from here.
I was alerted to the fact that a record was being made, and I felt it was important that our office take a position on that record from the district attorney, given the fact that the allegation was that we have not complied with the Victims' Rights Act. As the court knows, my office takes that very seriously, and the allegation warrants a response from the district attorney. I'm asking that the court give me, at this time, 3 minutes to respond to what I know was the record that was made.
Did you actually hear that, or you observed the record? Because I don't want you responding to something somebody told you. I guess I'd rather, I'll give you a chance when we come back here to do that, if you'd like, but I want to make sure that you're not just relying on what somebody told you secondhand.
Well, I do know that the court found that we did not comply with the Victims' Rights Act and therefore was rejecting the plea. I strongly disagree with the finding. We have not violated the Victims' Rights Act. In fact, we have spent hours upon hours consulting with, hearing from, listening to, and being present for the victims in this case. Hours with me personally, Judge. It is not correct that we have not complied with the Victims' Rights Act. We have gone above and beyond to make sure that this victim and their family felt heard and felt appreciated and that their opinion mattered. I took all the time that I...
I'm not sure what happened. The record's clear. I did not cut her off. I'm not sure what's going on.
I was disconnected for some reason. We took more time than I typically spend with any victim because I wanted to make sure that they understood everything that we were thinking about, all of the different factors in this case, and that we gave them the opportunity to tell us how this crime has affected them and to tell us what they thought about the crime. I take personal offense to the record that we have not consulted the victims in this case, because frankly, we have consulted with them more than we have with most victims in this valley. And so I am taking, obviously on behalf of our office, I would strongly object to the suggestion that our office has not complied with the Victims' Rights Act in any way. And I would encourage the victim's family to say specifically what meeting we haven't been able to schedule, what time we haven't been able to give, and what reaction to their concerns we haven't taken seriously.
All right, thank you. And I'd welcome you to come August 5th for the sentencing if you'd like to make further record on that. Like I said, I was responding specifically to what I was told by the victim. So you're welcome to see what that was and then come on the 5th if you'd like for the sentencing, if we proceed to sentencing. But at this point, Mr. Harmeyer wants some time to consider whether or not he is going to do that. So ultimately, I'm not accepting the plea as it was offered with the stipulation to probation. So that's really the bottom line with that. So he's going to consider whether or not he wishes to withdraw his plea or proceed to sentencing on an open sentence. Okay?
Thank you for the time, Judge.
And then I'll make further record at that point once I give you a chance to do that. Okay?
Thank you for the time.
One moment, Judge, one more thing. As from my understanding, as part of the plea, there's also a drug felony case dismissed as well. So if people just want to make a record that if the defendant withdraws his plea, we're going to be asking the court.
I think that's what Mr. Wyman understands, and I think they understand that. That's why they want some time to consider that would be the implication of that. Okay. So certainly I think it's only fair to give him that opportunity. Okay? August 5th then at 3:30. We'll see you back here then.
After 11 months of being ignored, dismissed, and left in the dark, Bill and Peggy Metz finally had their day in court. Their daughter Tanya stood before the judge and said what this family had been holding in for nearly a year, that the DA's office had failed them, that they were never consulted about the plea deal, that they were told what was going to happen, not asked. And then something happened that nobody in that courtroom expected. The judge looked at the district attorney and asked one simple question: why should I accept this plea if the victims were never properly consulted? The DA had no real answer. And so, Judge rejected the plea deal entirely. The 90-day county jail sentence that had already been agreed upon thrown out. Donnie Harmeyer, the man who sprayed bear spray through the bedroom window of a sleeping 81-year-old man and his dementia-suffering wife, walked out of that courtroom that day without a sentence. The case was reset. A new date was set for August 5th, and for Bill and Peggy Metz, the nightmare that began on a quiet July night in their own bedroom was still not over. This is what happens when the system fails the very people it promises to protect. And the worst part, nobody in that DA's office has been held accountable, not yet.